Hey, what's new and exciting? It's Kevin O'Shaughnessy here, and in this video I'm going to continue the demonstration on picking technique, this time focusing on a pronated picking hand orientation and the resulting upward pick slant. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please feel free to have a look around. I post videos on guitar technique, music production, and songwriting. So if any of that is at all interesting to you, please consider subscribing and remember to hit the notifications bell so you're kept up to date on when I post new content. Alright, so if you're new to the concepts of picking hand orientation, such as pronation or supination, deviation, and the like, I have a video called Sharpen Your Pick where I introduce all of the vocabulary that I'm using in this video and other videos that I've created. So if you haven't seen that yet, I would go check that out. I'm going to have a little button. If you're looking at this on your computer, there'll be a little button above my head. I'm also going to put a link in the description so that you can go watch that and get caught up on some of the vocabulary there. The quick version is if we hold our hand out like so, and we turn it this way using a forearm rotation, we call this supination, and if we turn it this way, we call it pronation. If we are using our wrist from side to side, we call that deviation, and these are a couple of terms that I'm going to be using throughout this video. So to set my orientation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate my hand a little bit like this so that the fat part of the pick points about 45 degrees, plus or minus a few, it's not exact, but it points up and away from the guitar. What this is going to do is if I'm using wrist deviation to attack the strings in my alternate picking sequences, it's going to allow the pick to come away from the strings after every downstroke. This is going to be pretty important because with the pick away from the strings, I can move to any string that I want without getting caught up on any of the other strings. If I keep my picking orientation parallel to the body of the guitar, when I come down on a string, my pick is going to get hung up on the next string. I may even end up blazing right through it, creating kind of a messy sound. So by changing the plane of the picking orientation, I can hit the string and change strings after every downstroke, making the transition much smoother. Now there are a few different instances where this would be a very useful approach, but I'm going to focus mainly on one in this video. And that's a situation where you have a lick that starts on a downstroke, has an odd number of notes on one string, and even numbers of notes on the other string. Now this might sound kind of contrived, but it's actually more common than you think it is. For example, let's take a look at our A minor pentatonic scale. So this is our standard trusty box position at the 5th fret. Now you may notice that what I'm using here is a downward pick slant. Okay, this is a supinated picking orientation, and because there are an even number of notes on every string, I'm able to clear the strings after every upstroke, and that's what makes the transition much easier. Now, if I'm doing that pattern, let's just say I'm practicing that scale, I want to go ascending and descending. In order to maintain that same picking orientation, I have to repeat this top note so that I can keep an even number of strings on the high E string, like this. But if I practice that in such a way where I don't repeat the top note, that's where I end up getting an odd number of notes on that string, like this. Notice that I have to change strings at this point to continue the lick, but my pick is buried against the pick guard, which means now I have to hop over the high E string in order to get to the B string. This is obviously not very comfortable. If I'm doing it at a slow speed, it's not a big deal, but if I'm trying to do something a little quicker, that's going to cause a problem. What's the solution to this? Changing the orientation to an upward pick slant, like so. Notice how the change in orientation makes the string switching a lot easier. So that's an example of how to practice it as a scale exercise, but what if we've got a lick? Let's take our same A minor pentatonic scale, and I'm going to start a lick that has 3 notes on the high E string and an even number of notes going down, like so. So here I'm using a simple sequence to get across the strings. It's a 4-note pattern. Notice I have 3 notes on one string, 1 note on the second string. So my picking pattern is going to go down, up, down. This is where I need the string change, up. Now because I had 3 notes on the first string of that sequence pattern, I can do the exact same thing right here. Down, up, down, up. Now I can finish it with a little bend, and that takes care of the whole lick. I can do the same thing ascending as well. Check this out. Once again, a little quicker. It starts with the pinky, 1, 2, 3, and finishes that pattern on the next string. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Or in strokes it would be down, up, 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 down, down. And you'll notice that for phrasing purposes, I'm not picking the release of the bend. I pick the first part, but not the second part. Now let's say you wanted to do a triplet pattern. I'm going to use an A major scale and 3 notes per string fingering. It looks like this. So I'm going to do a 6-note pattern and I'm going to sequence it down the scale. It's going to start at the 10th fret and it looks like this. Hopefully there's 2 things that you notice. Number 1, I'm still using my upward pick slant. Number 2, when I finish the notes on the second string, my pick gets buried between the B string and the G string, or the second and the third string. This is going to make string changing kind of hard, but what's cool about this particular sequence is that I start the sequence again on the B string, thus turning what was 3 notes into 6 notes. Looks like this. And just like the pentatonic lick, I can do it ascending as well, and that looks like this. The last lick I'm going to demonstrate is in C major, and it's a traveling lick. It's going to move from one part of the neck down to another part of the neck. It's helpful in cases like this if you know your individual mode scale fingerings, right? Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, and so forth. If you don't worry about it. It's definitely something that I'm going to cover in a future video. But what's interesting about this lick is that it is an 8-note grouping, okay? We're going back to 16th notes. It's an 8-note grouping that is going to have 3 notes on the first string and 5 notes on the second string. Now that's going to sound a little weird. It doesn't sound like it goes with the pattern, but let me show you how that works. So how does that work? Well, we have 3 notes on the first string. This is starting up on the 13th fret. Notice I've cleared the string with the downstroke, ready to hit the next string with an upstroke. Now I'm going to do a position shift to get the next 2 notes. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now what happens? On this string the pattern starts all over again. So here comes my next odd number of notes, 3 notes. Once again, clearing the string with the downstroke. So it ends up that I'm playing 8 notes on the B string. I'm playing 3 on the high E string. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's my odd number of notes and my even number of notes. And like all of the other licks, it is possible to do this ascending as well. You're simply going to be leading the position shift with the pinky this time. And just like all of the other licks, it's a consistent upward pick slant throughout the entire lick from the very beginning to the very end. With a bit of practice, this too can be developed to pretty high speeds. I should also point out that using these orientations, whether it's the downward pick slant or the upward pick slant, is not just to develop speed. That's one aspect of it, but it doesn't have to be the focus. The focus really is on being able to cross the strings as smoothly as possible, regardless of what you're playing. It could be something very lyrical, it could be something very aggressive. It doesn't really make any difference so long as you can cross the strings with ease and comfort. So I hope you found that useful. In addition to the links to previous videos, I'm also including a link to the transcription of the licks that I demonstrated in this video. If you have any questions or concerns, hit me up in the comments. I'll be sure to answer them as quickly as I can. In the meantime, I'm Kevin O'Shaughnessy, and I'll see you in the next video.